Trent Barrett has continued his recent hobbies of walking under ladders and kicking black cats, with 5'8" Lachlan Croker ruled out for the season, meaning he has been put in a very difficult position, Will.
Yeah, he has, mate. We spoke about this last week. You know, Baz is under a hell of a lot of pressure, and the only way to get through all this is to get a win. Probably the worst thing has happened. They got beat by the Knights without no Pearce, and Paul Croker does his ACL, which means he's had to put old mate into the 21 this week. So he's in a very hard position, mate.
It is difficult. I mean, looking at the situation as it stands now, he's got a number of options, but I don't think he can win. He puts Jackson Hastings in the team, and people say that he's gone back on what he said. He leaves Jackson Hastings out of the team, and they lose. People say, well, why didn't you put Jackson Hastings in?
Yeah, I look at the whole problem. I watched Jackson Hastings on the weekend, and he knew if he had a blinder against the Bulldogs, and he put himself in a position to be put into the starting lineup this week, or in the top 21, which he has been put in there through a lot of pressure, I think.
Well, they've only got
21 players available, but he played absolutely rubbish. I watched the whole game. He touched the ball twice in the first half. So if he really wanted to go, you know what, Baz, you have to pick me, he didn't do it.
Yeah.
He just didn't do it. Like, he just looked uninterested, and he's pretty much just gone, you know what, I'm over everybody. You know what I mean? That it looked like that from my eyes looking at the game, going, he doesn't really care. He doesn't want the spot, because the spot was there for him to take. And he just sat back, and I think they ended up winning. But I just don't think it just wasn't a real.
To be fair, there was a lot of pressure on him in that game. I mean, obviously the eyes. I noticed there was a lot of the Manly players went out to the game, and he was probably feeling a little bit pressured.
Can you imagine how he's feeling when you get told from the whole team that he's not wanted in the team? Then that next minute, 10 players all of a sudden say, "No, it wasn't us. We want you in the team." The coach has told him that he doesn't want him in the team. Where the hell do you think this young kid's head's at?
Yeah, it's bizarre.
It would be all over the shop. And he's been coming out and he said, look, he's not confident around the players. He's not used to the football banter, what the rugby league players like, the manly humour, rugby league humour. It's different. You've got to have tough skin, you've got to have thick skin, and you've got to deal with it. He's not the sort of kid that can deal with it. So he's dealing with his own problems. So can you imagine what this poor kid is going through every week, going, do these guys like me? Like, I've had a fight with Cherry Evans. The coach doesn't want me in the team. Now I'm picked in the 21. Where do I stand? You know what I mean? So, like, I'm just thinking, I feel for the kid, but I was really rooting for him on the Saturday, and I was just like, just get out there and kill it. And it just looked to me that he just didn't want it that bad enough, because if he did, he would have touched the ball about 25 times a game, got man of the match, and just said, look, pick me.
So for Trent Barrett, is this a question of picking Hastings versus his credibility? Like, at what point does he go, I don't care what happens, this is what I've said, I'm not picking him?
I think Baz will stick by his word. He'll pick him in the 21 because he has to pick 21 players. I don't think he'll play on the weekend because I think Baz will lose all credibility if he picks him. And I just don't think Jackson Hastings is good enough.
Worth it.
He's a good enough player to go, you know what, you have to pick me.
Yeah.
Because on the weekend he could have proved that, and he didn't. So I think Baz will just go, you know what, I'll pick you in the 21 just to keep everyone, just to shut their mouth. And there's other ways that he can pick to get the 9, 7, 6 and their combinations going. He doesn't have to pick Jackson.
Interestingly, Lyle Gorman, who's the CEO, he's been noticeably absent in this whole debacle up until now. He came out on Sunday and tried to take some of the pressure off Barrett and said that he would be picked, which I think it stopped a lot of the speculation as to whether he would or he wouldn't get picked. But now the team list will come out on Tuesday, and he will definitely be in the 21. They don't have to drop off until later. They've got Dylan Walker, who can play 5'8".
Yeah. There's
young Tom Wright, who came through the 20s last year, who's a terrific footballer.
There's options. There are options. DC can stay at 7. Dylan Walker can go to 6. Tommy Trbojevic is still at 1. You still got Api Coruscant at 9. You can figure it out. I don't think Baz will go back on his word. He's probably already pissed off enough with everything that's happening. And it's not like you've got an Andrew Johns or a JT sitting in reserve grade just knocking the doors down, or a young up-and-coming kid, because, as I said, he had his chance on the weekend and he didn't take it.
Well, what do you think would be worse for Trent Barrett's coaching career, which is young, is it worse for him to go back on his word, or is it worse for him to just continually lose football games?
I think it's worse for him to go back on his word at this moment, because I don't think I just don't think he has to. I don't think he's been put in a position where he has to go back on his word.
Yeah.
Because simply Jackson Hastings didn't put him under enough pressure. So I think they've still got the team. They should have won on the weekend. They were in a position to beat the Knights and they lost it. You know, so they're in a really, really bad place at the moment now. They need to win, and I don't think Hastings is the answer.
No.
Cherry Evans is the answer. Tom Trbojevic and Jake Trbojevic are the answers. You know, they've got some really good players and some good positions, and they just need to win. That's it. Winning solves everything. If they had won against the Knights, all this garbage we wouldn't be talking about.
Yeah. Oh, look, I hope Trent Barrett seems to me like he's a terrific young coach, and I hope he does well. So.
Yeah, Baz is under the pump, but I think he'll come through.
In what should make Todd Greenberg and his hashtag Talk the Game Up pretty happy, the NRL have brought out a Hall of Fame, which we think is quite long overdue and will represent some of the best players in the game being finally recognised for their talents on the field. Now, Will, this is a pretty good development.
Yeah, it is. I think a lot of players like myself and Danny Badiris and all the sort of blokes that play in the last sort of 15 years have always been talking about, like, why has the game gone straight to being an immortal like these guys? They're the creme de la creme. That's the top of the top, you know what I mean? And it's hard to be there. You can't. There's been thousands and thousands of players that have played, and there's 8 immortals. There's got to be something below. I think at the start, the NRL sort of stuffed up, or the ARL or whatever it was under, went straight to the immortals and just named them without going through the Hall of Fame, which other sports like NFL, AFL, all the American sports,
There's
go to
precedent.
the precedent is you follow the blueprint. You do that. But we didn't. We go straight to the immortals. So a lot of these great players like the Ray Prices and Steve Roaches, Peter Sterlings, all these players that played in the 80s, they're not immortal players, but they're Hall of Fame caliber players. And they're being recognised now, which is great. And what happened where people are getting confused now, which is people going, why isn't Ray Price in the top 25? Because in the 100 years of rugby league in 2008, they named the top 100 players, which are automatically Hall of Fame players. So that's where our Eric Groth seniors are, the Peter Sterlings, Walters and all these sort of players. That's where they are now. So now they've come out with the 25 players that they've, I think it come out of like 9,000 people, then it come down to 135, and then it's come down to 25 people. Go off, obviously, amount of games you've played, premierships, tests, origins, and how you've performed at that level. So it's come down to 25, and at the end of the year, you'll get 6. So I think it's a great concept what they're doing, and I think there's players and there's people that'll be so happy. I mean, like that their great-great-grandfather is a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's great what the NRL are doing.
I was bitterly disappointed that my 2 childhood heroes, Craig Salvatore and Kevin Hardwick, didn't get a start, to be perfectly honest. But you can't please everyone, and that's the whole thing with these lists, is that you can't make everyone happy, and there's always going to be conjecture and people are going to complain about who's on it or who's not. Was there any omissions that you noticed that...
Yeah, I thought Shane Webcke. Like, I looked through the whole thing and I was sort of, he's been retired for more than 5 years. He ticks all the boxes to be a Hall of Famer. He's played over 20 origins and tests, over 200 games, 2 or 3 premierships. He's done a hell of a lot for the game. So I was a bit surprised that he was left out. But as, I was listening to Buzz Rothfield and he was saying, look, they sat there for 8 hours trying to get these players from 9,000 down to 100 down to 25. It took them so long, and somebody's got to miss out. There's so many players that did miss out. So I thought the main omission was Big Webby, because I played with him and I know what sort of player he was, and he was one of the best front rowers I've ever played with.
One thing that's not transparent, I guess, is who's picking it. Like, is there a judging panel of
There's 8. There's 8 people, and I know Buzz is one of them, but I don't know who the other 7 are. And I know in other sports, they are pretty much all journalists and analysts of the game, and just, guys that are just gurus on statistics and all that kind of stuff. So, they know more than your average football player. We just go by the eye test and go, yeah, he's a grouse player. I was really good mates with him and stuff like that, and you really like playing with him. But they obviously go from the numbers, what you've done with the game, your impact on the game, and how you've played at each level. Yeah. So I think that's fair. And the journos do know their shit about football. We can bag them as much as we want, but they do know their football. As long as they're being fair with the judgment and not being just because they hate you or they don't personally like you, they shouldn't have any agendas against that. As long as they don't have that kind of stuff and they just pick you on your merits, they should have for Hall of Fames.
If Dean Ritchie's on it, you're no chance. Mate, honestly though, if you who are the six? You look at those six. Who jumps out at you from that 25 short list?
Yeah, I look at Petro Civoniceva, 309 games, 51 Tests for Australia, 45 Origins, 2 Premierships in the middle. Just an absolute beast. I played with him, against him for 15 years. One of the toughest men I've ever played against.
You're just picking front rowers, Webcke, Civoniceva.
Oh, but I just don't think anyone would argue with that. And just look at his numbers. I look at Bedsy, which is another bloke that I've played with. I'm being a bit biased, but and guys that I've played with, but they transcend the game because they can play. I look at players that can play in every single era. I don't look at players that could only just play in the 70s because they were tough bastards.
Yeah.
You need people that can play in the 70s, 80s, 90s, into the noughties and into this era. That's the way I look at all the greats, where they can play into every era, not just in the 60s where it was different, all different rules and all that kind of stuff. So you need to put that into account. But, there's other players, I think
Ricky Stewart and Cliff Lyons.
Ricky Stewart, Cliff Lyons, Cliffy Lyons. He was probably arguably the greatest ball player of all time.
Yeah.
And he was in an era where there was Wally Lewis and, Brad Fittler and all these sort of Laurie Dailies and stuff, and he still sort of forced his way into these Aussie teams and New South Wales teams. So they're the 4 that really stick out. I think the other 2, which might be Michael O'Connor. I think he's a jewel in the national. I think he was great for the game, and during the 80s he was probably one of the best centres. So I'm not sure on the 6th one, but
well, what they're going to do now, every year now they'll have 4 new additions.
Yeah.
Who are the 4 that you have played with that, when their 5 years are up, should go in?
Yeah, automatic. JT, I think they'll be sitting on that immortal thing one day. JT, Cameron Smith, Billy Slater, GI. Yeah. I think all 4 of them are going to be immortals one day, let alone Hall of Famers. So that's just straight off the cuff pretty easily. So I don't think that'd be too much that'd be too much trouble to name them.
And the next immortal?
The next immortal, it has to be Mal. I think everyone was surprised when Joey got named. I think Joey was always going to be an immortal, but I don't think they expected him to be in front of Big Mal.
Yeah.
I think Mal will be next, and I think hopefully they do 2 this year. And I think the man who just grew his hair back there, Darren Lockyer.
Well, I don't think anyone would argue with those 2, mate. My reputation as someone who has no idea what they're talking about has been confirmed with the Roosters and the Cowboys grand final prediction already in tatters. Now, Will, who has been your biggest disappointments and who has been your biggest hero so far of the comp?
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I just don't think anyone would have expected this table, after round 8. The bottom 4 is really disappointing me at the moment. The Sea Eagles, Bulldogs, Cowboys, Eels. I would have thought they would have been top 8 teams. But they've all had their issues. I didn't think, the Eels were going to be this low. I didn't think the Cowboys especially, they got touted as the best forward pack in the game. Pretty much nowhere near living up to that standard. Still a long time to go, but they need to really get on a bit of a roll now. The Bulldogs, everyone was excited about them at the start of the year. New coach, new culture, new everything. Same old thing. I think they made a couple of steps forward on the weekend. But
they just can't score points.
As a supporter of the Bulldogs and stuff, it's just not the way that they usually play. And the Eagles have had their massive problems, but the best ones have probably been the Warriors and the Storm. I think the Storm, I just don't understand.
Dragons? No.
Oh yes, and the Dragons. But I don't think the Dragons. I don't think we really expected them to come out this well. We expected them to come out well because the last couple of years they've come out and they come out of the block. So everyone's sort of expecting this, but we're not expecting the fall off that they have been doing the last couple of years. But really, it's the Warriors and Storm. The Storm just keeps evolving with the game, and just everyone thinks, okay, we're just going to keep up with the Storm. They just keep changing the game. I mean, now they've got these massive humans. Cameron Smith is just like a coach on the field, Like everyone thought they're going to miss Cooper Cronk. This young kid, Jax, just comes flying in. It's like they haven't even missed Cooper Cronk at all. Billy Slater, you don't realise how much Billy Slater and Cameron Smith have. Their DNA is all over that team.
Yeah. I think as well, watching the Storm, the way they've completely redone their entire game plan has changed so much. They lose Cooper Cronk and they change the way they're playing, and it's so successful.
But it's their way that they adapt every week.
Yeah.
Like they knew they were playing against the Warriors. The Warriors have been really shutting teams out with their line speed. Last week, they were doing 20-metre cutout balls. They negated the line speed done, and then Warriors didn't have plan B. They didn't know what to do because they were getting run ravaged on the edges. Nelson Asafa Solomona going straight through them. Guys on the edges, Hoffman, Kafusi, just like belting on both edges. And then you got Billy Slater and Cameron Smith in the middle, just doing everything. I mean, like, it's just unstoppable. What they did against the Warriors was just ridiculous. 36-0, 4 back-to-back tries. That doesn't happen in this day and age where you don't touch the ball for 4 or 5 sets and they keep scoring on that set of 6. It was like it was under 10s. And you're putting that against the Warriors team that everyone thinks that are nearly premiership favourites, you know? So the Warriors go back to the drawing board and go, how the hell do we deal with this? So, you know...
And they've lost Isaac Luke now
Isaac
for 4
Luke,
weeks, and he's
that's
been a
massive.
huge part
Sean
of it.
Johnson's huge. They've still got a lot of losses. They've still got a lot of people that need to come back into form. Sean Johnson's one of them. He's their main guy. Him and Isaac Luke. They need them back ready to make a run during the Origin period where they can get most of their wins and then start a really good run towards the back. But, you know, Panthers are outstanding on the weekend. I thought I need to, you know, say the Bulldogs and the Panthers. It was like a little rehearsal for Origin. I love seeing it. Campbell Gillard and Clemmer, Trent Merrin, Woodsy, because Josh Jackson, because they all can't get picked in Origin. And I love just seeing it because they know how much Origin means to New South Wales, and they know something's brewing in New South Wales that we're close to getting, we're close to winning, I think, and everybody sort of knows that. You know, Queensland's getting a little bit older, and I think
Queensland know that?
I don't think Queensland know that. I'm just being a little bit optimistic, but I just love seeing these guys actually fight because they know that, you know, is Clemmer the number one guy for New South Wales? Is Regan Campbell-Gillard? Is Woods on the outer?
So who do you give the points to? If it's a heavyweight clash on the weekend, who do you give the points to?
I'll give it RCG, Regan Campbell-Gillard. He was the only bloke there. Him and Trent Merrin stood straight up into like Clemmer and Woods' face, and Josh Jackson did not back down one bit. And I think he got the points because they obviously won the game anyway. But, you know, Clemmer and you know, Campbell-Gillard, they've played for Australia together, and I just love seeing that passion when they went out there. They were hating each other. You could see it. Trent Merrin's been on the outer a little bit. You know, he really wanted to prove to everybody that, hey, don't forget about me. And, you know, you got Josh Jackson, you got DeBellin, you got all these players really fighting for this. You know, you're only going to pick about 8 people in the New South Wales side. So you got the Frizzells and all these sort of guys that are permanents, and they're going to be the first ones picked. But DeBellin's going to be trying his arse off to get picked every week. You got Trent Merrin still, who's played 13 Origins. You got all these other players. You got Woods, who's been there for the last 6 years. Is he on the outer? You don't know. Clemmer, you know, Campbell-Gillard hasn't played yet. You know, Wade Graham's there. Like, you just don't know who you're going to get. So I love seeing that, and that was the clash of the round. Just seeing them young bulls just go at it. So I think the selectors would have seen that and went, you know what, Campbell-Gillard's our main man.
Penrith, actually, with the injuries they've had and the fact that, again, before the season, you know, the coach has lost the dressing room, the players are revolting, they don't want to be there. The Panthers, for me, James Maloney, the way he's been playing, if New South Wales are to win the Origin, then it'll be James Maloney who's got to
run the show. I think, I think Boyd Cordner, and look at Tarek Sims. Tarek Sims is probably the best forward in the comp at the moment. You got Boyd Cordner, who's captain. You know, Maloney, he'd be pushing for vice captain. You know, there's so many options that we've got. But we just need to get the right chemistry, and I think Freddie is the man to get the best out of our players. And hopefully this year he picks the right people, he picks on form, and we get the job done.
Last question: will the Cowboys make the 8?
That is such a hard question, and yes. I just think they've got too much class, and they've got it's not the old Cowboys, you know, it's just this Cowboys that have made runs for the last 5 or 6 years, been in the top 8, they've won the comp, they got the grand final last year, it's JT's last year of rugby league. If they can't pull through this, you know, something's wrong.
Well, I've tipped them for their grand final, so they're gone.
You don't know, but they can make 4 or 5, 5 wins in a row. Next minute, these guys can shuffle down. These guys can come up next minute. They can get it. They can get a little bit of a sniff, and they'll go for it.
The Fox Sports show, The Professor's Farewell Tour, and let's hope it is, has been on TV now for this season. They take a light-hearted view of things in and around rugby league and the soap opera that it is. Now, a segment that they've done recently, Will, you think's missed the mark.
Yeah, I think that, it's a light-hearted bit of comedy. You know, people take the piss out of my teeth. at the moment.
What?
And I really couldn't give a fuck. But I mean, like, I watched the show on, I think it was after, the Friday or Saturday night football, and it was just a bit on Wayne Bennett. Like, Wayne Bennett and his private life is his private life. And they were trying to have a dig at him about what happened with his family and his wife and all this kind of stuff. And I just thought it was below the belt, and it wasn't funny, it was personal. And it just pisses me off, because I just don't understand, like, why would you want to bag a great person like Wayne Bennett? I might be a little bit biased because I know him personally, but like, just the things that they were doing, I just didn't understand. I wanted to just throw something through the fucking TV. It pissed me off so much, and that's why I wouldn't really come out on the show here and waste my time just bagging some bloke. You know what I mean? But it was just the way that they done the whole thing. I just couldn't understand it, because you can say, oh look, Wayne Bennett, you can pick on him the way he looks, the way he treats the media, the way he treats people. He's lost games. He might, you can bag his football. That's fine. Don't bag his private life. Let's go through your closet and just rip everything out.
Yeah.
Everyone's got some dirty laundry. We don't give a shit about you. But you think you can come out there and just and absolutely bag one of the greatest blokes who's been involved in rugby league for the last 40 or 50 years, like what he does outside of football and the things that he does for his family is unbelievable. And he doesn't want any of you pricks to know, especially him. Well, but, and that's the thing. I just don't understand where you get the audacity to come on the show and just trying to bag him, and then you don't understand about the ripple effect where it goes out to his family's got to go through it again, his kids, anyone who's related to Wayne's got to go through it again when everyone's sort of forgotten about it, and you just sort of bring it up because you think it's funny. It's not funny.
No. Well, satire, and it's a satirical show, satire requires humour for it to work, and having a crack at someone when you know that there's a ripple effect on the family that he has left behind, and that's a fact, that's no one's business but his own.
Yeah, I just really couldn't understand it. I was just like, why is this even happening? Why are they even trying? You can pick on Wayne Bennett, and he's more of a caricature now. You know what I mean? Like, he's just this big old cranky person that everyone thinks he is. Take the piss out of that. There's other ways to do it. You just don't personally attack and think it's funny, and you make fun of his ex-wife and his family and stuff like that. It was just way out of order.
Have you spoken to other players about how do they feel about the show?
Well, that's why you see hardly any players going on it. I mean, there's other players that are contracted to the show that are obligated to do the show. Otherwise, I don't think they'd do it. Me personally, I've been asked to get on the show. I wouldn't go near it because I don't rate it, and I don't believe in taking the piss out of my own peers and players and anything like that, because I don't think it's funny. They personally attack people. They think it's funny just to take jokes out of just rugby league players or anything that anyone else is doing. Like Hainsey copped a fair bit of what he was doing. It was just like, and all this hashtag talk the game up, this prick does nothing but just bag the shit out of everyone.
I think, realistically, there is a role, and lightheartedness and humour, there's enough in rugby league that's funny and that you can take the piss out of without going personally after people's families. I'm the sort of one who would take the piss out of everyone, and if someone took the piss out of me, I wouldn't care. But if you personally attack me, I'll come straight at your throat. Yeah.